Welcome to the Mountain Morning Show. We are beginning our coverage of Slam Dance, and the first film we're talking about today, it's called The Last Man You Meet. I have the director, Chris Bone, and the producer, Deana Levett. How are you guys?
Well, how are you?
I'm doing well, too. Thanks for coming out to Utah. Where was the film produced?
All over Atlanta.
Really?
So, yeah, east side of Atlanta.
Yes.
All over Atlanta.
And then you live in Atlanta, right?
I do, born and raised.
As much as you are the producer, you're also the daughter of the subject of the film.
Yes.
So you had quite the flight out here. What about you? Where are you from?
Atlanta, yeah.
Atlanta.
Yeah, I actually met her father at another gig that was totally unrelated, shooting for Ford, and heard a brief bit of his story, eavesdropping, and then approached him, and he said to call his daughter.
Nice. Well, give the viewers a little introduction to the film before we show a clip.
Sure. So the idea for the film comes from HBO's 6 Feet Under, the intro sequence to that, the title sequence. And I was just always looking for a subject. And a lot of times people in that industry were not interested in someone poking around with the camera.
What did you call and say? Hey, can I come in with my camera in your funeral home?
Yeah, pretty much. I would just cold call and knock on doors for probably a dozen other ones. And they all said no. Unabashedly no. And then finally she kind of got it. I think she had seen 6 Feet Under and sort of realized that I wasn't trying to do anything, you know, underhanded.
Right.
I just wanted to show some beautiful B-roll.
Yeah.
So she
People
got it.
confuse nice
Interesting.
and kind.
Well, okay, let's
but
show
they're-
you guys a clip. It's kind of hard to explain until you see it.
Yeah.
And then the real interrogation will begin afterwards.
Cool.
Okay, I think it's going to take a minute to get the clip together. I wanted to ask you, why this story? Why did you want to go in a funeral home and show what happens when you're prepping bodies for essentially their final endpoint?
It's always sort of interested me that someone that you don't know is responsible for you at the very end of your life, and that they're with you in like a really intimate and sacred moment, but you have no idea who this person is usually. So I wanted to meet that person, and that was the inspiration. And like I said, I've always loved 6 Feet Under, so that's really what sparked the sort of fascination. But and then when I saw her dad, he's got this gravelly voice.
Yeah,
he's just got so much character, and I just knew that if I could get to him, this would be the guy to do it.
That's awesome. And then Deana, have you grown up around the funeral home?
Yes.
So that's kind of a different upbringing. How did that change your perspective on death?
It definitely teaches you to appreciate life. It's just such a different kind of business to grow up in. But again, I just feel like seeing people not necessarily transition, but just seeing families have to go through that kind of transition. It's like a ministry. You're helping people get through one of the toughest times in their lives. But growing up around that, it just teaches you to be humble, to always be grateful. So I appreciate what I've learned from growing up in this industry.
And everyone that works in the funeral home are just like normal people. Like they talk about like the basketball game last night, or like what they're going to get for dinner that night. But then there just happens to be a dead body right there, you know. And so it's just not that they're nonchalant, but it's just they're normal people. Everyone kind of thinks that they're just these weird, creepy people, and that's not true.
But we're all like quiet and somber as they work. No, it's real life.
No, yeah. There's like the radio on. They're normal people.
So it's interesting to combine those two elements. You know, work, real life, personality, friendships, relationships with this type of work. And like you're saying, a lot of people don't even realize that's how it is.
Yeah. No, and the thing about her dad is that he, if you watch the film, he's third generation funeral director, and he used to be scared of dead people, and all this kind of stuff. So he's just, I don't know, he's just stoic and gravelly, and just, he's a great character.
So I've seen the clip, and I'm not sure if it's ready yet to pull up, but what was the hardest part about filming it, and then what was the hardest part about editing it? I mean, you have to realize people, some may be disturbed, or some might be thinking it's beautiful. I mean, what kind of process did you go through?
So the hardest part about shooting was just logistics and permissions with family, which is what she really handled with her connections. I was just more concerned about lighting and, hours in the day. So I think just getting the actual permission from the families was probably the most difficult part.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the edit, I ran it by a bunch of other editors and DP buddies of mine who, you know, I was trying to balance, you know, get right up to the edge of showing reality, but not making it flagrant or, you know, egregious or anything like that. So there were a couple clips that didn't make it into the final cut that people were just like, you know,
they just thought it was too much.
Like pump the brakes, like that's too much, yeah.
Tell me, are you going to go into the family business?
Yes, so I am the vice president of the company, also the head of marketing and advertising. It just felt very natural to go into it, but if you would have asked me at like, you know, 13, 14, I would have been like, absolutely
No
not.
way.
Right, but eventually I found my niche, and it's just, you know, kind of finding your place in a family business is a bit difficult, but once I did, it's just, I started flourishing in the company, and I
Did you
love
ever
it.
expect somebody like Chris to call you and say, hey, can we make a film?
Actually, yes. We've been asked a lot, but I've always turned them down. I've always turned down every offer, only because it didn't match my vision. I knew I wanted to do something like a passion project, just to, you know, share my dad's story, share the family story, because we have such rich history in the funeral industry. But when Chris called me and I saw, I think one of his colleagues' films, I just knew that his vision matched mine, and it really just connected from there.
Also, if we have time, so what you didn't see there was a part where we shot in a crematorium, and Deana thought that she wanted to be cremated, and that when we went and shot that, that was our first time seeing that whole thing actually happen. And then she changed her mind.
Yeah, I was just like,
Yeah, that was, I have to be honest, that was my least favorite scene of the screener. But do you mind, can I say, I mean, there's blood. There's, I mean,
it's real. It's what happens.
Do you want to go into some of those details of what people can expect?
Yeah, so I guess for the sensibilities of the morning audience, and to be sensitive to them, we didn't show a lot of that. But I mean, we filmed the embalming process. We filmed, you know, we went to the county coroner. We shot an actual funeral. We went to a graveyard. I mean, we shot the crematorium. We shot everything that's involved in that industry. Like, even if you don't want to do some of those things, like we showed that part. So it was basically all access, and you know, and there were no frills. Nothing was dressed up. It just was what it was. And so the only time that I ever had to take pause and leave was during the embalming process, because essentially they drain the body and then they pump it full of chemicals so that it's safe for people to, you know, observe it, you know, during an open casket. So yeah, you get to see everything as it is, and nothing's hidden. But at the same time, I was trying to be sensitive to not overstep.
Right, and not overstimulate the audience.
Right.
Well, all right. Final question. Some basics. The film is airing on Sunday, the 21st, and Wednesday, the 24th, here in Park City. I just want to congratulate you guys on being accepted into Sundance this year.
Thanks.
All right, guys. We have a lot more coming up on the show right after this break.